Blog Talk Radio.
Well, we seem to be online and trying to get a little bit of sound going here for a minute. We'll see what happens. Well, we should be having some kind of music here. I got nothing coming through my mic. In my ears, I should hear something. I should be hearing myself through my mic, but I don't. But I did hear myself over the thing. So I'm going to say we're airing, although it's kind of weird. I don't get any feedback like I should. So here we are, Thursday night, Michican nightly radio show. Well, almost nightly. A Blog Talk Radio could keep their system working long enough. They had issues last night, so I couldn't get on, I could call in, try to connect, but it wouldn't connect me to the host queue, and we weren't getting out. There wasn't nothing going on. Of course, they were having issues. Now, Tuesday night, I got home. I was feeling like a ton of bad brick. Tore up from the floor up, 103 fever, cold sweats, hot freezes. I said to hell with the show Tuesday night. Blog Talk Radio may have been working. They may not have been. So Tuesday night, even if Blog Talk Radio was gone, my fault. Last night, all Blog Talk Radio. And it was twice last week. We had some radio issues. So, yeah, we're going to play this out for another week, I think. And if things don't go well, I'm going to look at another service. I already got one picked out to try. And actually, I'm going to give this for a couple more days. I'm going to give it tomorrow. I might even try to do something Saturday. Maybe even try something Sunday for a little smiles and grins and see what happens. Give this thing a run through over the weekend. And if it doesn't work, we might be changing to a different format, which hopefully is a little more stable. It works really well. I know plenty of people that work off this other format, Spreaker. That would be Spreaker, S-P-R-E-A-K-E-R, like speaker with an R in it, Spreaker. They have a pretty decent little format, and it seems to work quite well. Know quite people have been using it for a while. They had pretty good luck here. I don't know what's up with Blog Talk. They've always been pretty solid from everything I've listened to, but they seem to have some issues since I've joined them. So whether that's an issue with Blog Talk or what, the platform, Windows 10 coming out, Lord only knows what's going on with Windows 10. So many people having issues. If they upgraded to that could be the problem. So at any point, I'm going to try a different little song here. I know we haven't heard these in a few days, so you guys are eager to hear them. I'm going to throw a song in and see if it plays through, because they said they are having issues and may need to re-upload the audio. So let's try this one and see what happens. sure don't seem to be the audio playing at all. I hear nothing through the phones, through the system, or through the internet. So the audio looks like a dead deal. So I'm going to play around, delete this. While I'm deleting these old ones, we're going to have to get rid of them. And I'll have to bring them back in, which would be kind of a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. So I was going to, Tuesday I had a few things in mind what we're going to go on about, and I had a pretty good idea what I wanted to do last night. I had the show aired. I think that's what we're going to go with. What I was going with last night. This is pretty important right now with what's going on with the Medical Marijuana Act. I talked about that pretty heavy last week and Monday. I'm pretty sure I hit it pretty good on Monday to try to make some noise with it. We got a lot of stuff going on with it. The state, pretty sure the state has their 75% supermajority, and they're going to be able to go in and add the provisioning center bill. They'll be able to go in and tweak it and add their, bill for the medibles. Now, there's, two big issues that many of us are aware of, many of us aren't. I mean, I've been kind of pounding this drum since this became an issue, since the McQueen case, and, I don't even remember which case it was which killed the medibles one. I don't think it was Hartwick, but I doubt it. Too many of them so far. It's been insane. Anyways, one of the Supreme Court cases, Court of Appeals, whichever it was, erroneous ruling, bad ruling, using very limited definitions instead of broad and general definitions. They found somehow or another that any preparation thereof must have plant material included in it. Although any preparation thereof comes out of the Public Health Code, and the Public Health Code has a very nice definition that the bill uses, the Medical Marijuana Act actually uses for marijuana. So let me do something quick second here. I ain't quite straightened up, but I'm pretty close. Let's go look at the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, excerpt, initiated Law 1 of 2008, 333.26.423, definitions. You run down to definitions, and you get down to E, and E is marijuana. The definition per the Medical Marijuana Act for the word marijuana, it is defined as means that term, meaning marijuana, means that term as defined in Section 7106 of the Public Health Code, 1978 PA 368, 333.7106. So let's bring a little copy here, and let's go see what that term is defined as. So Michigan Legislature 333.7106. Public Health Code, Act 368 of 1978. 333.7106 definitions, I to M. So that we are very clear here. In 2008, we made a constitutional amendment to the Michigan Constitution called the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. In that act, it defines the word marijuana as the definition given in the Public Health Code, Excerpt Act 368 of 1978. So the defined definition of marijuana for the Medical Marijuana Act of 2008 comes from the Public Health Code, defined as 1978 in Act 368, September 30th. Marijuana means all parts of the plant's cannabis sativa L, growing or not, the seeds of that plant, the resin extracted from every compound, manufacturer, salt, derivative, mixture, and hold on to your panties, or preparation of the plant or its seeds or resin. Now, please tell me, lawyers, you're the ones that keep saying, oh, they know what they're doing. Please, in your greatest education from Cooley Law School, or wherever else you got your pedigree from, Yale, Harvard, the British Accredited Regency, whoever gave you your paper-trained signatures saying that you've been properly paper-trained, now please explain to my dumb ass, my dumb white Irish lily white ass, how exactly resin extracted from any part of the plant, every compound, manufacture, salt derivative mixture, or preparation of its plant or its seeds or resin fails to fit into the Medical Marijuana Act's definition of marijuana? Now, I may not be paper trained from Yale or even Cooley Law School, but the plain and simple general language of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act is marijuana is defined by the Public Health Code. End of story. You want to know what marijuana means in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act? Look at the Public Health Code. Public Health Code clearly says marijuana is, number one, all parts of the plant Cannabis sativa L. Doesn't it mention Cannabis ruderalis? Doesn't mention Cannabis indica? Cannabis sativa L. Growing or not? Okay, growing or not, it's marijuana. If it's Cannabis sativa L. The seeds of that plant. So Cannabis sativa L seeds, not Cannabis ruderalis seeds, not Cannabis indica seeds, Cannabis sativa L seeds. The resin extracted from any part of the plant. Excuse me, guys? Now, lawyers, you're really going to have to make it really dumb, stupid, easy English for me to understand this. How does the resin extracted from the plant as a definition of the Public Health Code for marijuana not fit into the little word of definition in the marijuana for the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act? Maybe I am that stupid. But damn, I thought extract from any part of the plant doesn't necessarily indicate being the plant, nor does it indicate being anything different than marijuana. But boy, you lawyers must be paper trained extremely well to not be able to read the resin extracted from any part of the plant. Sorry, got a little excited. Salt, manufacture, every compound, derivative, mixture, preparation of the plant or its seeds or resin. Marijuana does not include the mature stalks of the plant, the fiber produced from the stalks, the oil or cake made from the seeds of the plant, or any compound, manufacture, salt, derivative, mixture, or preparation of the mature stalks, except the resin extracted from those stalks, fiber, oil, cake, or any sterilized seed of the plant that is incapable of germination. Marijuana does not include industrial hemp grown or cultivated or both for research purposes under the Industrial Hemp Research Act. So, Medical Marijuana Act, as we the people voted it, put it into the Constitution of this state, uses the Public Health Code's definition of marijuana, which is the Cannabis sativa L, growing or not, the seeds, the resins extracted from any part, every compound, every manufacture, every salt, every derivative, every mixture or preparation of the plant or its seeds or resins. Point blank, end of it. It says it does not include the stalks, the mature stalks, or the fiber produced from the stalks, or the oil produced from the stalks, or the oil or cake made from the seeds. Or the fiber, oil, cake, or stuff made from the sterilized seeds, or any sterilized seeds that is incapable of germination. It doesn't include industrial hemp grown or cultivated, so we're not talking about Cannabis rudialis here. According to the Public Health Code, Cannabis rudialis is absolutely not even mentioned, except that it says marijuana does not include industrial hemp grown or cultivated, or both, for research purposes under the Industrial Hemp Research Act. So to have industrial hemp, per the Public Health Code, you are supposed to be growing it for purposes of the Industrial Hemp Research Act. How do you get an industrial hemp research grant? Oh, that's right, they don't give you one because it's marijuana. It is against the Public Health Code. Anybody else see the disconnect here? Anybody else who has sat in jail or been in a court case over the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, or an oil, or an edible, or a tincture, starting to scratch your head and asking yourself, why hasn't my lawyer bring up that resins extracted from any part of the cannabis sativa L in every compound, manufacture, salt, derivative mixture is marijuana? And if he did, why did he allow the courts to ignore it and the prosecuting attorney to avoid it? These are lots of questions that we should be having before we even see a court. These are questions that shouldn't even be being asked if the general, broad understanding of the word was given. Marijuana. Saying cannabis sativa L. So, yeah, I'd beat that horse for a good 15 minutes now. So let's have the call-ins. Let's hear about it. What do you think, man? I mean, Public Health Code's the definition for Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. Call-in number is 646-668-2239. So, we got this thing. The definition of the Medical Marijuana Act is perfectly held right in the Public Health Code. Quite clear. Marijuana means a term as defined in Section 7106 of the Public Health Code, 1978, PA 368. Michigan Compiled Law 333.7106. And when we go to that definition, it clearly says marijuana means all parts of cannabis sativa L, not cannabis indica. Cannabis rudialis is covered under the Industrial Hemp Research Act. Growing or not, the seeds of the cannabis sativa L, the resin extracted from any part of the plant. Now, see, here's a problem with the Public Health Code in itself, which is a major flaw. Right here it says marijuana means all parts of cannabis sativa L, and then it turns right around and says does not include mature stalks, plants, fiber, seeds, or the stalks, fiber produced from the stalks, the oil of cake made from the seeds of the plant, meaning cannabis sativa L. Any other compound, manufacture, salt, derivative mix. Any other compound, manufacture, salt, derivative mixture. I'm going to read that one more time. Any other does not include any other compound, manufacture, derivative mixture, or preparation, or mature stalks, except as resin extracted from those stalks, fiber, oil, or cake. So, the way this thing is craftily worded is marijuana means cannabis sativa L, not rudialis, not indica. Marijuana does not include cannabis rudialis or cannabis indica. It only includes cannabis sativa L and all parts of that plant, the roots, the stalks, everything else. But it doesn't include the fiber from the stalks, the mature stalks themselves, or the mixture or preparation of the mature stalks, hempcrete, except for the resins extracted from those stalks. So marijuana is the resin extracted from the stalks, from the fiber, from the oil, from the cake, or from any sterilized seeds of the plant. It is also the cannabis sativa L plant. So all those things are what the Public Health Code says are marijuana. Marijuana means all parts of the plant, cannabis sativa L, growing or not, the seeds of that plant, the resin extracted from any part of the plant. And then you get down and it excludes what it isn't, except in the what it isn't, it excludes resins extracted. So resins are mentioned twice. What are you making your edibles with? Resins, oils, salts, derivatives to make a preparation thereof. And all of those items I just listed, all 7 or 6 of them, is that right there? 6, 7, are defined in the Public Health Code as marijuana, as defined in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. So who's that? What's going on here? We got people going to jail, sitting in jail, waiting on trial, probably being arrested right as I am talking to you, and the other talk show hosts are on the other one talking about their other things, waiting for that call to get that ink, to ink that court docket. And yet, right in the Public Health Code, it says the oil and the resins and the extracts and the salts and the derivatives mean marijuana. And the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act says this Public Health Code, the things that mean marijuana in the Public Health Code mean marijuana in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, part of the Constitution that we put in 2008. So you tell me why in the hell we need legislation to fix this with a medibles bill. Any preparation thereof, courts, that's pretty broad in general. That's not an analog, boys and girls. That's marijuana, especially if it's cannabis sativa L. Oh, but here's the hiccup. I wonder if any of the lawyers mentioned this to you and explained it to you in this manner. Maybe if they did, you'd understand it a little bit better. And if you understand it a little bit better, you'd really understand why recreational legalized pot is a stupid idea. Cannabis sativa or cannabis indica is not mentioned in the Medical Marijuana Act. It's not called marijuana in the Public Health Code. Therefore, it's not marijuana in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. Oh, is that why they are getting away today with calling it possibly a analog, a unknown substance that is yet not heard of or not called on or not yet known? Is that why they can say, oh, it's like methamphetamine? It's an analog. It's dangerous because it's cannabis sativa or cannabis indica, which is not mentioned in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, not mentioned in the Public Health Code, and actually excluded in the Public Health Code from the definition of marijuana. Oh, it's cannabis, all right, but the Michigan compiled law, the policy of the state, does not recognize cannabis indica as marijuana. And with so many strains out there that are crossbreeds of cannabis sativa L and cannabis indica, could that be the gray area that the law and the Attorney General and the legislation and the cops and your public defenders and your paid attorneys are talking about? Boy, now that's an interesting thought. Because if cannabis sativa L is part of it and cannabis indica isn't, well, golly, wouldn't that be a policy that allows them to arrest you and throw you in jail for an analog, when we all know it's cannabis. So, Michigan Medical Marijuana Act uses the definition of marijuana from the Michigan Public Health Code as defined, and that does limit it to cannabis sativa L as industrial research use purposes only. It doesn't even get to cannabis indica. Interesting, because when we go back and look at all those really old medicine bottles that everyone was sold, 90% of them mentioned cannabis indica as the main extract for the medical oils that they were using. Isn't that kind of interesting? So why would all these laws that came down since 1937, 1915, if you really want to go back to the original controlled substances policy, not constitutional law policy, nothing in the Constitution says cannabis is illegal. Nothing. Not a frickin' peep. Not a period, not a comma, nothing. The Constitution stands mute on plants being illegal, people. What it doesn't stand mute on is taking a plant and murdering somebody with it by making a rope out of it or just beating them to death with it. But it stands mute on the plant itself. Oh, but the policy says cannabis sativa L is the only thing that's marijuana in the state of Michigan, and cannabis ruderalis is hemp. That's only allowed for research purposes under the Industrial Hemp Research Act, which, you know, I think we've got a couple of people who are pretty familiar with how that Research Act went through back then and how the latest one was handled as well. Nothing like plowing through stuck in the mud trails and having to re-go through the same trail that was already patched and filled and screwed up before. So yeah, we're sitting here with the Medical Marijuana Act. Doesn't indicate cannabis indica, where most of the modern research says medicine comes from. But hell, we all know THC is the main ingredient. It's the main kicker in the medicine. You take the CBD out of the THC and your yin don't yang your yump. You need them all. The biggest researchers and people who have been studying this thing for 50 plus years, 40, 30 years, are all saying the same thing. The entourage effect, the whole plant effect. They have made the outright statements. We take one thing out of it, and it doesn't act like it did with the rest of it. It actually, in most cases, causes harm because it's not with the rest of it. It's been isolated by itself, and then it's not the real thing. They make the petrochemical version and give it to you. It looks chemically the same, so they can say it's the same, but look, nature made one, man made the other, and man had to throw shit together to make it happen. Nature just grows a plant. Yeah, I think I'm still going to trust nature. I love man. I think those guys are great. But we're not as smart as nature. We haven't made a damn thing out of nothing yet. So, we got the Public Health Code, which has limited definition, but if you're using cannabis sativa L, your oil, your resin, all that stuff, that's marijuana per the Public Health Code. Therefore, it's marijuana per the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. The derivatives, the preparation of the plant or its seeds, what we have here is cherry picking of words and conveniently omitting the ones that just didn't fit their purview of what marijuana was defined as in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act because, well, damn, it says resin extracted. How are we going to say the oil and the resin's illegal if the resin's extracted is right here in the public health? Oh, I know. We'll use or preparation thereof where they say or preparation of the plant. Marijuana, this is how we'll read it. Guys, I got an idea. Marijuana means all part of cannabis sativa or the preparation of the plant. Period. They forgot the middle part that talks about growing or not. Well, they added that. The seeds, the resin extracted, they omitted that. Every compound, don't need to read that part in our court hearings. Derivatives, salt, those aren't important. But preparation of the plant, period. We'll forget the end where it says, or it seeds or resins. We'll move the period 5 letters or 5 words before that. Yeah, marijuana means cannabis, sativa, L, growing or not, or preparation from the plant, of the plant. Yeah, of the plant, because, well, that says it must have the plant material in it. Therefore, are these guys using oils without plants? Well, they're just dirty criminals. Go arrest them, boys. 400%, people. 400%, lawyers, since 2008. And you wonder why the people are pissed off at you, too. And you sat on your jackals and inked your dockets and said, oh, we're so sorry you're going to jail. As you cash every flipping check that's written, don't you? Yeah, enjoy that Porsche, that new boat. You enjoy that $10,000 tent that people donated their money for you to have. You enjoy those ink dockets, baby. Because it's coming to an end. You better ink them while you can, because we're cutting this baby out. We're gutting her. And I hate to tell you, people, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act's going with it. This thing has been perverted by the state. It's been used into a club. It's being shoved down your throat and up your ass, and you're told to like it. Oh, and then legislatures thinks they've got their 75% to put in their medibles bill. And if you don't think they're going to put in warrantless compliance checks and try that, go to Florida where they're going to drug test you for welfare because there's so many druggies on welfare. They got a bridge down there, too. It's called the Jeb Bush Bridge to the President of 2016 with his running mate Hillary Clinton, because they're the same people working for the same team. And if you vote for either of them, you're stupid. You vote for any, even Trump. Trump's a chump. They're rolling out Trump like he's some kind of new age Ross Perot. Ross Perot is a man. Trump's a pussy. He stole his money. He declared bankruptcy 4 times, which is part of the national debt. You ain't going to be able to vote for any of these. And Bernie Sanders, that socialist son of a... don't even get me started on that lifetime congressman who's voted for his own pay raise. And yeah, he'll bitch about you not getting yours. But he's taking his and his golden Cadillac insurance plan. He's not on Obamacare, ladies and gentlemen. He's running the shaft just like you're getting the shaft. And shit rolls downhill, and they put us at the bottom. Now, you can stand at the bottom and let that shit fall on your little shoulders or big shoulders or narrow shoulders. Or you can take the political power that's in the Constitution that says is yours, and you can repeal prohibition. You can get rid of the club that has become the state's 400% increase in inked dockets, Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. Tell them to take their policy and shove it where the sun don't shine, because we've got a Constitution, and their policy falls under this state's sovereign Constitution, the sovereign state's Constitution. And if any lawyer is telling you different, in my opinion, he's a lying lawyer. Because the Constitution is the supreme power of this land, and any Supreme Court justice will tell you that. Yes, it relies on what they say is their interpretation, but that's just what our Supreme Court did with the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. Their own interpretation of the Constitution as it stands. That's not the way it is, ladies and gentlemen. The Constitution is not just a legal piece of paper for lawyers and judges to interpret. No, it's already been interpreted. The interpretation was put in plain English with broad and general scope. So anybody with a third-grade education and reading ability could read any of the constitutions in this great country, including the federal one, and understand it completely. There is no need for interpretation into the cold, hard, written in stone words. People call it a living act, and in a way they're right. But they're wrong. Because the Constitution is not a living document. You're a living man, a living woman, and it is your life that is alive, and it is you that give credence and authority and power to the Constitution, not vice versa. No people to sign the Constitution. This is simple, downhill politics, people. If there are no people, there is no Constitution. And if there is no Constitution, then there is no authority to create a government for somebody to be hired underneath of and run as a servant. Judges, lawyers of the state, government officials, policy makers who pull a check from we the people, called the taxpayers. Without that Constitution, you are just a subject to the Queen of England, or the King of England, as the case was back then. It is that Constitution that separated that. That Constitution is, like George W. Bush said, nothing but a goddamn piece of paper. You're right, Georgie. Rip that piece of paper up and start throwing it away even more, and you guys are about to see the living document called the Constitution of the United States of... I'm sorry, I need to back that up. You're about to see the living document that is the Constitution of these United States of America. Not the United States of America. This is not the United States of America, all one run-on word, all capital letters. This is the United States of America. Little u, capital S, these United States. The states are the power over the federal government. Because without the states, there is no power to give to make a federal government. Trickle-down politics, ladies and gentlemen. The power flows from you, the rightful, proper person, to the Constitution. And that's where the living document comes in. You're living. And it is your life that gives life to that document. And it is your will that gives life to that document. And without your life and your will, that document is just a goddamn piece of paper, like George W. Bush said. It means nothing, and therefore you're just a subject to the Queen of England. Or the King, as the case was a couple hundred years ago. Yeah, I know that sounds like a broad swath from Medical Marijuana Act to being a subject to the King, but this is the difference between constitutional law, where the Medical Marijuana Act, we put it, and legislative policy, where the Public Health Code sits, and it was put by our legislators who sit 3 steps below we the people in political power. Michigan Constitution, Division 1, Section 1, all political power is inherent in the people. Period. No comma, no semicolon, no colon, period. End of sentence. You have the political power. So when your servants in government tell you, we can't have no free-for-all, when your servant in government says, we can't have no legal medical marijuana, when your servant in government acts like a 10-year-old tantrum-having little brat, you don't give him a candy bar and send him on his way for a good time. You beat his ass, you put him in the corner, and you take his toys away, and you make him sit there for a day on that sore butt while he thinks about it, or she thinks about it. You people are going apeshit over 2 people screwing each other and having an affair. An affair is the oldest trick in the book. What do you think hookers came from? So the men didn't get something different from their wives way back, and we all know being a hooker is the oldest profession in the book. Only second to being a politician. So, you have the power. Or are you willing to let your servant wield that power over you? I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but I've never been much good at being a servant, a slave, a puppet for somebody else. I'm a little too single-minded, a little too vocal, a little too constitutionally orientated, a little too Michigander, a little too Michigan, a little too man, a little too Irish, a little too lily white-assed, to succumb to somebody else's will just because they think it's good for me. And they get to get rich off thinking that. So no, we're repealing the act. I hate Mary Jane. I've seen you on a few things, and I know you. I love this act. We did the right thing, but our government has screwed it. The children have been left at the daycare, and the daycare is being run by the perverts, ladies and gentlemen. The pedophiles are holding the daycare, and that's where our child called the Medical Marijuana Act is. I hate to say it, but they've already killed it. We ain't going to save this one. And to do so is just wasting mud. There's already been enough life lost on this thing because of the wanton disregard by the government. Their policies have cost dozens of people in this state their life since 2008. It's put thousands more in jail and prison since 2008. Has bring hundreds of thousands more into the state coffers, the state funds, and had to spend thousands, tax you thousands more so they can spend thousands more for the extra ink on the dockets, the extra stenographers, the extra prison guards, the extra, private for-profit prisons that we're building in the state. Who are they building those empty cells for? Ain't the pedophiles. They're getting out in 2 or 3 years. Just look at Jared. Jared from Subway. In 7 years, meanwhile, somebody in the same state for 2 ounces is got 12 to 15 or something like that. So, yeah. We're going for the repeal, boys and girls. The state of Michigan, the electors of the state of Michigan are so sick of this state. And I'm not talking about the cannabis community. Most of the most vocal, hardened, out there, in-your-face part of the cannabis community, I can't even see past the joint at the end of their fingers or the next event. They look out, oh, yeah, I got my joint. I'm not going to get arrested It's a good law. Yeah. Until you're arrested and wonder, how in the hell am I getting arrested? Yeah, that's right, $100 fines. Yeah. What happens when you don't pay your $100 fine, people? They just give you a cookie? Let you pass go and collect your $200? What happens if you have $300 fines? If you got a $100 fine today, are you subject to the same $100 fine tomorrow? We're going to go with Wimpy Burgers? I will gladly take your 3 fines today so I can do 5 to 15 tomorrow. Plenty of people go to jail every day for not paying their fines. How's that public intox going to work? Who's going to be the first to open the smokehouse? Legalized recreational marijuana smokehouse. Who's going to be the first to go to jail for public intoxication from walking out of a smokehouse? Because in recreational legalized marijuana bills, they leave it up. They leave it up to the police and the state to figure out how impaired you are and how to call you impaired. They've got all these cool little gadgets to count your nanograms on your breath. Going to pick your blood without a warrant for your 4th or 5th Amendment right to draw your blood in the first place to check it. And say, oh, you got 5.2 nanograms. Golly, if you were only 0.3 nanograms. Sorry, you get to go to jail. Don't pass go to her. Oh, but that's okay. It's a $100 fine. And you lose your license and a $500 responsibility fee. Oh, we won't talk about those. Don't want to muddy the water up too much. Yeah. When's the last time you seen somebody go for public intox? Most cops take them right downtown because, well, that's a nice little bonus. Every arrest is a nice little bonus. Every ticket's a nice little bonus. So, trading tit for tat. No arrest, but how you going to do with 10 tickets a month at $100 a piece? Oh, they'll never do that. Oh, won't they now? The same government, the same people, and the same fountainheads who aren't even talking about cannabis indica not even being included in the Medical Marijuana Act or the Public Health Code? Yeah, I've known this for a while. Never really gave it much thought. But if you got lawyers and they ain't giving this much thought, I got to question how much thinking your lawyer's actually doing. Is he thinking or is he inking? So yeah, I can see why people are being arrested for extracts, especially if they're using cannabis indica or a strain that's mixed with cannabis indica. Why? Golly, that's not defined as marijuana per the Public Health Code. Therefore, that's not defined as marijuana per the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, or the oil from it, or the seeds. Indica is a separate plant than sativa, biologically, botanically, agriculturally, as is Rudy Ellis, but it's strangely silent in the Public Health Code, at least in this area under the definition of marijuana. Now, who knows? Cannabis indica could be in the Public Health Code 300 different versions, just like the word marijuana is, as some of us are finding out. So if you're going in to strike every version where it says marijuana, you've got to write a law that individually strikes 200, 300, however, 250 some odd individual cases of marijuana being listed through the Michigan compiled law. Not the Constitution. Literally the only part of the Constitution that mentions marijuana is the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, because that's where we put it. The Michigan compiled law is not Constitution. It's compiled law, policy. Policy that does not conform to Constitution is not law. And in fact, it's unconstitutional. And by the very words of the Constitution, should be stricken and ignored. Ignored. Not even recognized. Constitution's a very strong piece of paper. Sure, it's only a piece of paper, but it's only as strong as you are willing to make it. And if you ain't willing to make it strong, say hello and bow to your new queen, 'cause she's a-comin'. She's got her bar people working on it. Oh, I'm sorry, the bar's part of the Chicago board. How silly of me. You guys don't pledge to the British accredited regency. That's just an old conspiracy theory. But funny, your entire system is modeled after the British accredited regency. You don't use the word Esquire much anymore, but you're part of Chicago. That's okay. We won't mention that Chicago was bought by, well, War of 1812. Go look it up and look at what happened after that. That's all I'll say. Conspiracy theory, the rest of it. But remember, every cop that we pay that's a detective is a detective investigating theories and conspiracies of crime. So it's been about an hour. My voice is getting kind of dry. I don't even know if I've got music. Oh, I see I've had somebody on hold for 20 minutes because I've been ignoring them. I'll tell you what, instead of you listen to nothing, I'll bring on our caller. I'm sorry, don't beat me hard. I've ignored you.
It's all good.
I've been ranting and looking at this stuff going, oh, there ain't nobody over there yet. So how are you doing, Dana?
It's okay. I was laughing. You were doing good. You were on a roll.
I'm getting cotton mouth. Because I haven't been able to drink my coffee, I've been flapping my lips for about an hour straight.
Oh, man.
So please, allow me to take a drink.
Oh, no problem. I am in full agreement with everything that you said. I didn't get to hear the beginning because I'm still trying to figure out how to do the computer with this. So I'm just doing the phone. You know how that goes. I've been playing with it. I understand you were talking about the Medibles Act. It started all of this, or the Medibles Bill.
That's where I came. I was going to do a show last night about 4209, 4210. You know, why are we talking about them? You know, what bring them about? And of course, the show was kind of messed up last night, so that's where I started at tonight. And I just like to freelance.
So you mentioned any preparation thereof, right?
Yeah, I was hitting on the preparation thereof, you know, and how in the Public Health Code it says, you know, defines cannabis sativa L and preparation of the plant or its seeds or resins is what's listed in the Public Health Code.
Right.
Along with salts, compound, every compound, derivative, mixture, manufacture, and resin extracted from any part of the plant, and right in part of the marijuana is definition. But I guess we forgot to read those parts and just worry about preparation thereof.
It's in the Constitutional Act. It's in the MMA.
Well, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act uses the Public Health Code definition.
Right.
That was that's what I was beating on that horse. I mean, that's a dead horse. People should know that, but
by the way,
I do have something. It says extracts. But it does define cannabis sativa L. And I think this is the loophole, the gray hole, that they say, oh, we just found a gray hole. We knew it was there. Never talked about it before, but well, why aren't they talking about it now? If they don't
Right.
Because, cannabis indica isn't mentioned in the Public Health Code, the policy.
No.
So it leaves it out. I could see why the courts could feel like they have the legal right to say, oh, that's an analog. But that's hogwash. You know that as well as I do.
Oh, yes.
That's using defined, limited reading of words and definitions, which is against everything that the Constitution is supposed to be handled on, as well as a people's initiative.
It's supposed to be easy to understand and hard to make.
Any third-grade reader should be able to read it and understand it without breaching the law.
And it should fit in your hands, all of it.
Absolutely.
I have a message kind of to tell you. You know how everybody keeps telling you you're too soft?
Right.
Well, now someone just messaged me and you're too loud today. I thought I would make you laugh with that one. Yeah, so now you're a little loud today, so I don't know.
Well,
just letting you
this
know.
wouldn't be unusual. Blog Talk Radio, in their meandering since I've joined the station here a couple weeks ago, they just switched over to a new hi-fi style system.
Oh,
and I'm wondering if this was what was causing their problem, because they have taken it off. And it said, I got a little drop-down message that tells me my audio files might be up there. It says, if you're using our hi-fi service, you make sure you re-upload your audio files. Now, I'm assuming it was on the hi-fi, even though I haven't been using their system. I've been calling in. I think their audio files automatically went to the hi-fi system. So I'm wondering if it's a hi-fi system that was having a problem, and maybe that, now that they're back on their lo-fi system, my analog signal is coming through better and stronger.
Right. Okay.
But then my voice is back. I'm feeling better. I'm not drug out, butt tired today. And I've got the mic pretty much in front of my face, so it just could be because I was slacking before.
Right on. Okay.
Whether I can control it or not, I don't know. I'll try.
Right on.
But I don't know if I can make it any louder. I can talk quiet. I'm actually being fairly vocal today, where I'm usually talking a little bit more calmer.
Right, and you're angry. Well, let's talk a little bit about
excited
about what Chris Ann Hall had to say. We all know about Chris Ann Hall. Well, most of us do. Lots of us do. I'm trying to get everyone to know more. Why reinvent the wheel? She talks about what I need her to talk about, and I just share what she's doing because I know everything she's saying is truthful. I look it up. I research it. You've got to meet her in person. You know exactly what she is, and she knows it.
Yep.
She was a prosecutor. She knows it. I was loving her last podcast that I heard. Took me a few days to listen to because I was out of town, but it's good.
Yes.
She goes right into it. It is just a plant. It is our choice. It is our bodies. It is our children's bodies.
Yep. I definitely dug the fact that, she bring in the fact, okay, we're giving OxyContin now, highly addictive. She has done her homework here before she opened her mouth. And I love that. Because she went and you could tell she went in and looked. She knew and she found the research. And I know she just didn't read the stories and go with it. She went and looked. She went and researched herself. She found the fact that cannabis is less addictive than chocolate, because she mentioned that.
Yes.
And I've like you said, you went and researched her, what she said, and you found out it's true. So she's done her research.
Well, I didn't even have to research it today. I already knew that.
Well, exactly. Those we didn't have to.
Previously, when I've been to her classes and things like that, because I've done her all-day class, you have to look at it. And when you really learn the truth and how it all went down and how it's all worked, your eyes are open and you're amazed. And people think you're yelling and screaming at them when you try to teach them these things. And I try to give them the steak, not the baby food, because I'm just not in the mood to play anymore. How many times do I have to say I'm ready to storm the castle?
Right.
It's kind of... when your eyes are open and the scales are off, you're done.
Yeah.
And I'm angered when people just don't want to learn and don't want to listen and don't want to read it. And it's easy to research the stuff she gives you because it is there. It's in the history. It's in the old history. And you find it, and you know you have these powers. You know that we chose to have a king.
Yep, a lot of your local libraries, people, they are there. A lot of them have this stuff, and if they don't have it, they can bring it from another library that does, so you can research it.
Because with what I do, and I'll give a quick rundown for those that don't know, I'm not just a cannabis activist. In fact, I didn't even care about the cannabis community when I first started all of this. I was against any law that was unconstitutional. And I've said it out loud. I don't have a card. I don't care to have a card. I've ingested cannabis since I was 13 years old. Permission slips are not my cup of tea. I know the truth, and I can't bring myself to do it. I'm with you. I want full repeal. I want abrogation. And if we cannot do it by ballot initiative, I have said over and over what the next step is, and we all can do it. We can make it work. There's cases all the time. You just nullify the law. The same way we
Nullify
did
it and civil disobedience. It's the only other thing the state will recognize.
Mhm.
You know,
and it's how many problems have been solved. Many
problems.
And once we nullify it within our state and they can no longer prosecute, then they'll start listening to us, hopefully, and nullify it at the state level. Technically, we all did nullify the law. When we voted yes in 2008 for the Medical Marijuana Act, we nullified the federal law. It's that simple.
It is.
Now, if we cannot get this ballot initiative passed, our next step is to nullify each and every court case, and I have been preaching this for 3 years.
Yep.
Well, since 2012. So, 3 years now. You go in there. You do not plead guilty. You fight your court case. If you lose, okay, fine. You go to jail. You do some time. You pay a fine. But you go to appeal, and you appeal, and you appeal, and you appeal, and you get the word out there, and you let people know. But you have to learn every facet of why. Why is it wrong? Okay, you've been arrested. You're sitting in an arraignment. Today, there's an arraignment for 3 people over in Emmett County. I didn't get to make it over there. Those 3 people, they had the chance today at arraignment to say, no, I do not understand. I do not understand the crime that I've committed because I do not see a crime here. And then you learn about unconstitutional official acts, which is American jurisprudence. It's late 2D. I'd have to get all the sections for you in a minute. I post this all the time. You look it up. That's Encyclopedia of American Law, and it says that any unconstitutional act is void. It's void from the day it was enacted. It even goes into talk, because Don Rowan was pretty smart back then. He was pretty smart. He knew his constitutional rights. He knew about the 1100 Charter and the Magna Carta and the Petition of Rights and the Grand Remonstrance, all the things that came with us over here, because they knew their history.
Right.
And he sat there and he said, it's null and void. And he even says it's null and void at the time of its inception. And even if there's a decision so branding it unconstitutional that the people still feel it's unconstitutional, it's still null and void. Yes, we are the power. We, the people, formed a more perfect union, hoping that we could get rid of kings. The way we set it up and people fell asleep, we became an oligarchy. We all know that you go into a courtroom and your public offender does not defend you. The judge does not care what he violates because they've never been forced to do so. The next time someone's sitting in court and they violate the Constitution, everyone in that courtroom should stand up and yell and scream and throw a fit.
Yep.
What's the worst that they could do? Put 50 activists in the pokey?
Yeah.
Sheboygan doesn't have the room for it.
Ticket everybody. And the minute they throw a whole court into jail or give them a ticket, that's going to bring out the rest of the public going, wait, what? You threw my daughter into jail because she stood up and back with 40 other people and said, what? Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You get on a jury. You don't fight jury duty. You go try to get on it. You stand outside your local courthouse and you hand out jury notification.
Yeah.
You go to FIJA.org. It's FIJA.org, and you can order stuff. If you are a regular customer of Kirsten's and she makes beautiful brochures, she throws stuff in without shipping and handling, or she'll give you extra stuff, or just for the hell of it, she'll send me things. And you pass it out, and you inform people of their right to nullify the law, their right to vote their conscience when they are sitting there. Even though that judge violates the Constitution every time that he says, you will take the law as I give it to you, that is contempt of court. Every judge in America should be in trouble for contempt of court, and only we can do it. Right now, and I'm just going to regurgitate what I keep hearing from her because it's exactly what I feel. Trump, Hillary, all of them. I am so sick of it. I'm sick of Ted Cruz. I'm sick of the fact that all these birthers are willing to violate their constitutional right to have a president born in this country of American parents because now it's a Republican.
Well, yeah. Well,
it was bad when it was a Democrat.
I'll tell you. I mean, these people, the Supreme Court said their interpretation, no, their interpretation is not binding by the Constitution. So, therefore, it's an invalid interpretation.
Yes.
We know this. Chris Ann was very good at this. It was interesting when I was watching. I've been watching some of her 2013 stuff that come through. She likes Ted Cruz. I like Ted Cruz. He says a lot of poignant things.
And he's voted pretty well. His voting record is pretty darn good.
Well. He says a lot of stupid shit. I've heard him rabble off. Really? as a what I would probably be classically defined as a conservative Democrat. I know that sounds kind of, but if you go back in the 60s and 70s, you'll understand what a conservative Democrat is. Basically, think JFK kind of Democrat. You know, when you go to that, you know, what would be considered a conservative Democrat, he says a lot of stupid shit too. But then the Democrats are right there, so, you know.
Well, see, I never have put myself into any category, but everybody puts me into that libertarian utopia part.
I don't put myself
that's how I kind of
into
identify, and that's usually how I
category, but I mean, if I categorize myself, I'm a Michigander American male.
But if you put us into that category, we would have been in way back before they did the things they did and made their two-party system. We would be called what is a classic liberal.
Yeah,
we liberally
classic
interpret.
Liberal.
Yes.
Like Thomas Jefferson, who was an egalitarian, which is what I am. If I do all the political studies that, you know, this is what you are politically, I would actually be classified as egalitarian.
Oh, right on. I've never tried to do all that. I just know I'm classically liberal because
They've got
because I've looked up all those terms. But the thing is it's just
they got some really unique tests out there that will define you
everybody's
classically.
But everybody is so caught up in who's going to be our next ruler in D.C., because that's what we've decided he is, even though the separation of powers says he has less power than Congress.
Right.
So
we don't have
that's all they're
president.
obsessed with, whether they're Democrats or they're Republicans or who they are. Now, the Libertarians, they don't even care yet. They haven't even put somebody in yet. They're like, oh, we got time. But the Democrats and the Republicans, they got to keep us sidetracked right now. Let's get everybody all excited. And I've watched some of my people that I deal with on a regular basis within the Republican Party who think that they are Tea Partiers, who are actually just shills for the Republican Party. And I've watched them go through all of them as they've put their name in. Oh, Ben Carson, he's going to be great. Next week, oh, blah, 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 is going to be great. Now they're all on Trump.
Yep.
And I'm just laughing. I'm sitting back laughing. Occasionally I attack them on Facebook because I'm just like, I'm over you. You know.
It's like,
but nobody pays
like
attention to their judge race.
Go from event to event. You got the
same
circus.
Right,
and it goes from event to event, changes names a little bit, but the circus is all the same, and all the people who go to the circus are the same people from town to town.
And the names
Funny
just
thing
barely
is that
change.
That goes beyond the presidential campaign. That goes right to things here in Michigan.
Oh, yes, with our lovely Schneider and Schutte and Kelly and all their team friends and
I'm talking other things. Non-politics things.
Okay.
Just the same circus from town to town, you know.
Yes.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends.
And that goes with the cannabis community, too.
How's that go?
You notice that?
Yeah.
When you go to all these functions, it's the same people over and over, the same regurgitated speakers over and over and over and over and over.
I mean, I understand
everybody just wants to do dabs and get
different
high.
Areas. You know, some people haven't heard the message, but it seems like the same people are traveling from different towns to hear the same events, even sometimes, you know.
And then they tear each other down.
One small little group, and then everybody else just does their own thing.
And they tear each other down, this little cannabis community. And it's small because you can't get into it unless you have a super special secret pass.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of
and the decoder ring. I'm on the outskirts of it. I watch it. That's funny.
Yeah, I've always been
because
I've
always lived my life, done what I've
know?
done, and never needed a cannabis community to help me. And Normal's been around for 42 years. I'm 43, so that means they've done nothing. The Medical Marijuana Act, that's the baby step. Why are we taking a second one? Why are we sitting here begging them to grow hemp in our own yards for $5,000? Please, sir, can I?
Yep.
And if my neighbor wants to become the rope factory, he's got to get another permit and hope like hell that the county commissioners are going to allow him to do that.
Yep, or hemp creep. I mean, I'm of the mind the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act wasn't even a baby step. Sure, it was Michigan's first step, but boy, we didn't just tippy-toe, man. We took a step. We took a full step right to the head of the country.
Wouldn't it be cool, though, if we could have been the first state that just said, go away? That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for that one state that has the balls to say, bye, we're done. Texas looks like it's going to do it, and it looks like the legislators are going to do it. I don't think they have session this year. I think they go back into session next year because they only meet every 2 years. How's that for part-time? That's awesome.
Yeah, right. That's part-time.
I would love that. But so this one guy, and he's a conservative Christian gentleman, and it's in the Easy Rider magazine. I can't think of his name. I'd have to go look at the magazine. He's a conservative Christian that knows it's a plant, that knows it needs to be dealt with. So with him being who he is and what he is, I think it could have a good chance of passing.
Yeah,
there still would be some fines and fees with some of it. It's not a perfect measure, but it's very nice, and that would be awesome.
He's talking about decriminalization across the board with no penalties, I believe. I don't think he had any penalties written in there.
You might be right. I'd have to look at it again, but I was just bringing that up because it can be done differently.
Substance abuse help at the end. Okay, let's see what his name is. I believe there was no fines, no jail time, no fees, no arrest. All the cops could do is offer substance abuse, and it was somebody that had a repetitive nature. They may be able to be forced into substance abuse at that point. I'll have it. Let's see.
The first Easy Rider I pulled out had the Waco Massacre, which is its own nice fun thing. People should follow that.
David Simpson, Republican from Longview. It was David Simpson, which is a state congressman from Texas.
Yes.
Repeal the state ban on growing, possessing, and selling marijuana. And his quote was, I don't believe when God made marijuana, he made a mistake that government needs to fix.
Yes, I've seen that quote. That quote's in the magazine, too.
I understand there's a lot of people that get upset about the whole God thing. It's irrelevant to a point, folks, and when it comes to the law. I mean, it's not irrelevant, but when it comes to the law, our Michigan Constitution, one of the very first things in it, cites the grace of God that allows us to give this Constitution to ourselves.
And our whole country
was founded on... You can like that or not like that, I don't give a crap.
And our whole country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. A couple of the founding fathers were not Christians.
Yeah,
they did not believe in Jesus.
Right.
But they believed in the Judeo-Christian... Oh, sorry.
Right. Right. No, you're right. I mean, yeah, but I mean, it was... We got to believe as we wanted to, and if you didn't want to believe, that was your choice as well.
But the common law and all of that, all of the things that we went under, they'll even admit it. It was based on a Judeo-Christian principle.
Absolutely.
Love thy neighbor, golden rule. Weren't a lot of laws.
Yes.
You know, some of the states had laws. The states had some stupid laws, but you could fix those easier.
Yep.
It's much easier to fix a state law.
Yep. You know, and people cite, separation of church and state, which is, really loosely pulled in. But the whole context of that, in my understanding of all the readings and the teachings of the Founding Fathers and their words and speeches of it, is so the state couldn't force you to rule or to worship a specific religion.
Yes, it was in the letter from Jefferson to the Danbury Baptists.
Yep, that way,
they were wanting him to intervene with something, and he said that there is a wall of separation between the church and the state.
And that's it. That's all it was. That's where it began, and that's where it ended, with the separation of church and state.
It was one letter between one representative and one church.
Not part of the Constitution, but in effect to say the state does not have the authority, because we do not give the state authority to say it can tell us who we want to worship. That was the gist of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but so many people on both sides of that fence. You can get them on the religious side and the atheist side and the theist side. They all want to bring that into it and muddy up the waters, and they wonder why they can't make head nor tails of shit. Because you're misconstruing the whole damn thing in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's only there for one reason. Nobody has power over you but you, including the state, and whoever God you choose. And
that includes anything that you do.
Absolutely.
Whether it's if you want to ingest something, if you want to plant something, if you want to collect something, if you want to, if you are hungry and need to put a deer in your freezer, all of that, they have no control over that.
Correct.
None.
That is
if you
not
need
in
fish,
their authority.
You go get some.
Yep.
The last time the king tried to rule over who could have the fish and the deer and called them the king's fish and deer, I think they put a sword to his throat and he died.
Mhm.
But that goes back to that understanding of what we have, and that's where it goes back to that learning and educating yourself. Everyone says we have to take these baby steps. We have to get medical first, and I know you guys did a good job. But the thing is no, not really. Really, we should have been out there saying no. No.
Correct.
You put that guy in jail.
Yeah, medical's a nice thought, but we really should be repealing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's not just about the medical. It's not just about the recreational. It's about everything this plant does. It's about the fact that they unconstitutionally did this. They violated the Constitution when they did this. This was based on lies and crony capitalism.
Yep.
Grant money fuels it, and theft. Grant money and theft is all that fuels it.
Yep.
And yet we still let it sit. And we keep saying, oh, we have to beg for more permission. Please, federal government, deschedule this so that SB 660 can kick in. Oh, please, Governor Schneider, hold SB 660 over our head. Oh, please, oppress me more and tell me that I can't put this in my body. Huh?
Yep.
In the Am I Legalized proposition, what does it say? If you create an edible, you must put a thing on it that says, and I'm not doing this perfectly, but you can find it on the Internet, it says it's hazardous, maybe harmful. So you're admitting that cannabis is harmful.
Correct.
Right there.
And this is in the law. You have to admit it's harmful.
It's in the new law that everyone wants to vote for.
Even though we've got a medical marijuana act that says it's not harmful.
Exactly.
This is where I'm getting. How do these people not get
And then I believe it's Section F says the word imprisonment 4 times. Yes, it has to do with minors. Under 21. Everyone that I know started smoking cannabis before the age of 21.
Everyone that helped me out between 13 and 21 would just be a criminal, meaning my family.
If you help someone under 18 get cannabis, they go to jail. And if an 18-year-old has cannabis, they go to jail. That is how it is. And not only will they fall under the medical marijuana, or not only will they fall under violating the new recreational act, the minors will still fall under Public Act 96.
And what happens
Public Act 46 of 1996.
Yep. And what
Zero
happens
tolerance.
What happens when adults are convicted of doing crimes that take advantage of minors?
Enhanced sentencing,
unless you're a pedophile and got connections, like Jared. They throw the book at you, especially if you're a nobody. Especially if you're a nobody who's breaking the pot laws. Yeah, I mean.
Oh yes. And then you'll still have the federal mandatory minimums because we're still going to follow federal law, don't you know? Because it supersedes state law. Yeah.
My whole problem.
I mean?
My whole problem is how is a cop going to know between hemp, medical cannabis, and recreational pot?
Oh, they're not. And how is a cop during a flyover going to know that your acre of hemp is covered by your $5,000 permission slip that you got? They're going to be like, oh no, that person's got more than 12.
That'll probably be GPS tracked there. They'll have GPS. They'll probably have to have cameras on their hemp fields 24/7 because that's going to be part of seed to sale tracking. So I mean, the state won't mind that because they'll have you'll have to pay a couple $100,000 and we'll have to pay some money in taxes to get this state mandated 24/7 monitoring system in place so they can watch all the hemp people to make sure the dirty criminals don't go get that dangerous, harmful cannabis.
Well, I guess between that and the $5,000, Dana won't be getting her hemp permission slip. She'll just be doing her hemp the way she wants to do it.
I'm just trying to figure out how a cop. Let's forget about the hemp in the field. Let's deal with the idea of recreational because, that's the only topic we can talk about, right? We can't talk about nothing else. We can only talk about recreational. Fine. Let's talk about only recreational. How is a cop going to know your 12 recreational plants from the 12 medical marijuana plants, which requires you have a doctor's recommendation at least?
Because they look different.
If you don't have that doctor's recommendation, is it going to be a $100 fine? Is it going to be no fine? Or are you going to be arrested and I just follow the law, I don't make it, the judge is going to have to figure this one out. I see 12 plants. The Constitution says you got to have a medical recommendation from a doctor for those under the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. But the legislative law that was just passed says, well, you can have those 12. I don't have time for this. You're going under arrest. I don't care. I'll let the cops and the prosecuting attorney figure it out.
Sort it all out in the end.
I mean, is this going to create even more gray areas? I mean, we just found a gray area with cannabis indica. It's not in the public health code. As far as I know, it's certainly not in the definition under marijuana in the public health code as listed.
No, and it's not in the federal law either.
And it's not in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act under marijuana because it refers to the public health code. So, okay, is this going to be another gray area that the courts are going to have to figure out, and the Supreme Court's going to have to give you their interpretation of what your Constitution says, that you told them what it says, you defined how it was going to be said and read, but yet they interpreted it differently. So is that okay with you? Speaking to the general people out there, I know you don't like it, but anybody else that's out there may be listening, 2, 3 of you, 3 of you, 300 of you, there should be 300,000 of you. There should be 3 million of you listening. If you're hearing this and you ain't got other people listening, give them the link.
Tell
Get
your
them
friends.
in listening. Call in. Speaking of calling in, let me give people a number. If anybody wants to call in, if it's only me and Dana, I guess it's just you and I, hon, but if anybody wants to throw their words, their opinions, and even you lawyers, welcome. Hey, I ain't going to block you. I'm not going to ban you from having your say. You can even get a little rambunctious and maybe being a little insightful if you have to. Get pissed off. Isn't that what you guys are supposed to do? Give us a call. 646-668-2239. Push 1. Get in on the line. I want to hear you. I hear you all the time talking about, it ain't this. Missouri didn't repeal or overturn McQueen. Well, lawyers, what does in contrast mean in a Supreme Court opinion when it's referring to another Supreme Court opinion?
Oh, yes, I love that.
In contrast, this court finds, meaning the same court, how is that not overturning? Just because it didn't say, we overturned McQueen. Our Supreme Court is fighting itself over the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act.
Well, that's because they had a changeover since McQueen. A couple new people are on there.
I love the fact that they're fighting over it in a way.
Me too.
Because if they're fighting
that
each
means,
other, they're
you know what that means,
fighting
though?
each other.
But you know what that means, though? If they're fighting right now,
we're paying a lot of tax dollars.
But if they're fighting right now, this is the best time to take your stuff to the top. During this next I think that's a 2-year cycle for them, it's a 4-year cycle for them.
4-year cycle.
For the next 4 years, we're going to have these new guys in, and they're going to be fighting. And it's good, because that means right now, if you have a court case, you do not plead guilty, you take it, you take your punishment, you get it into appeal,
they're not fighting on everything, but with the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, they're fighting.
And the thing is, too, if you go back to that separation of powers, all they do is issue opinions, not rules. They call them rules.
They can only issue a ruling. They call it a ruling opinion, but it must conform to the damn Constitution.
So they'll use case law all day against you.
But
Make your own new case law. Make your own new case law.
Yep.
And there's a chance the appellate court will say, well, because of this case, then you take it to the next one. They might refuse to hear you, but you make noise. We need to make more noise. You know what the biggest thing that upsets me about this is? When I have a client, a defendant, who contacts me, wants to talk to me about their case, and I get tons of them that call me because of what I do. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking to them, and I know what they need to do, and I tell them, and those that go ahead and get themselves an attorney and don't fight it the way they should, and believe me, the ones that are winning or getting dismissed.
Yes.
But either way, the first thing their attorneys tell them, and it's all of them, Joshua Covert, Michael Comorn, I don't deal with anybody that deals with Matt Abel, but who's the other one? Jesse Williams, they all tell them to be quiet about their case. Don't talk about your case. Well, one of the large cases is Stephanie. Right. One of our large northern Michigan cases is Stephanie Turpening. She was a teacher, so they're really messing with her. And I hope I didn't mess up her name. They're really messing with her. They're putting articles in the paper. She's a drug kingpin, all sorts of things that is jading the future jury. But yet Jesse Williams will not let her speak out.
Yep.
She needs to inform her future jury that all these are lies.
Yep, that's been common for, 50 years. Yeah, I don't remember a court case where, anything happened. Me, somebody I knew, somebody. You don't say nothing about the case. I mean, it's just the unspoken rule anymore. It's just accepted.
But yet the prosecutor continually leaks out stuff to the paper.
Right. What's up, Dom?
What's going on?
Not much. Trying to rattle some chains tonight.
I hear. I've been listening in. Kind of been busy, but listening in.
Oh, yeah. I hope we got others out there. Not that if they don't, oh, well, they're missing some good chatter. They'll have to catch her on the archive. But Blog Talk seems to be putting it together tonight for us, at least a little bit. I ain't got no music, but that's all right. I'll get that sorted.
Right.
What's your position on this stuff we've been talking? What are you thinking, man?
Well, I know we had a big, long talk about some of the stuff earlier today, and, with everything going on nowadays, I know as you guys are talking about the High Times Cup, there wasn't a lot of literature, a lot of pretty much, like Danny was saying, pretty much just getting high, doing dabs, and I mean, there was really no education. There was some, you could go to a couple places, but overall, everything was pretty much, let's get high, and
it just seems like the atmosphere from a lot of posts I've been seeing on Facebook, a lot of people attended. I mean, a lot of people went there, had fun, but it was kind of a commercial event. I've seen a couple of questions out there. One question posted the other day or yesterday was, how do you feel about not out-of-state people being entered into the, the medibles and the, wind-off thing? And I gotta say, I have some questions myself. I mean, isn't the High Times Michigan Medical Marijuana Cup?
Exactly.
I mean, if it's the High Times Michigan Medical Marijuana, if it was the High Times Medical Marijuana Cup visiting Michigan, then maybe I could see the understanding of including people from out of Michigan. But I thought this was an event for Michigan because, we only got a medical marijuana law, which has some pretty good limits.
Exactly.
So, I get the idea, but, okay, that's a good question. Should it be limited to only Michigan people? Personally, I say yes. It's the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act that allows them to come in and have their High Times Cup. No Medical Marijuana Act, no cup. So it's the people of Michigan that this is for. Now, granted, it's kind of neat to see what's going on outside the state. I can get that, but, maybe it was a lack of entrance. Maybe they didn't have enough Michigan people to enter to make it worthwhile, and that's why but overall, generally, I would hope they would take all Michigan entries before allowing anyone outside the state. But, that's a personal opinion on my part.
I agree.
I understand how promotions go. I've done promotions before. I've worked in advertising, and I've worked in sales, too. And when you're in a sales position, anybody out there who's worked in customer service where you're dealing with sales will know this. You'll know this, Dom. When you go to a customer and you're selling something, if you're really playing the salesman's game and not just being a good person trying to give the person what they need, but actually being the quote-unquote salesman, you sell from the top down. You give them the Mercedes-Benz with all the features. And if that doesn't quite fit their pocketbook, you whittle them down until you find something that fits their pocketbook that is probably way more than they need. Because the more price you sell, the more commission you make. And that's being a true salesman. Every sales job I've dealt like that is like that. Yeah. Politics
and they made
is the same way.
And my main concern with it, and I'm probably just because I'm one of those people that thinks this through, it's corporatism. The whole darn
exactly.
thing was corporatism. And
That's
the money that
to,
the magazine made off of the people of Michigan is just nuts to me. 250 booths. 250 booths. $2,000 if you were a nonprofit. $3,500. Huh?
I say, hang on a second. Oh, let me pull up my calculator here real quick.
Now, I don't know how many booths of each type there were. That's where we can't get the numbers until I can get that money.
Right, but we can go with minimal.
Because I follow the money all the time on all this legislative crap that I follow, and you know I don't just follow cannabis. I follow all of it, and I follow the money. Who's behind this? Who's the major donors? Who's on that sponsor page of this nonprofit that's pushing this, or this NGO? Right. And what we got to look at here is, yes, they came to Michigan. People that were not inside of Michigan got to be in it. I'm not sure how I feel about that, because when I go to the Easy Rider Rodeo, well, there's people from other states that are in the rodeo competition. They follow the Easy Rider around, so maybe I'm not upset about that. What bothers me is that the people of Michigan, in a state that is dying, a state that is poor, a state that is being taxed to death, were willing to pay on 250 booths that were covered, anywhere from $2,000 to $15,000. As a vendor, your cheapest booth was $3,500.
Okay, well, let's go simple math here. Lowest common denominator math. 250 booths, and let's say they're all nonprofit organizations, so they're $2,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be $500,000.
And I would say probably over 20 of them were nonprofit.
And 250 booths of nonprofit that only paid $2,000 for their 10 by 10 tent for their nonprofit area, that cost would be $500,000. That's what they would have made off booths.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fair good price for a weekend.
Then you've got the three different types of ways to get in. There were people that paid daily at $30 to $40 a day. Then you had the $99 super special secret VIP banner that cost you $99 for the weekend. Then, if you wanted to have your stuff voted upon, $1,050 for you to try my smashing brownie or my topical oil or my whatever. So, yeah, $1,050.
And who got
all those samples? Huh?
Who profited off that money?
High Times Magazine.
I would assume, High Times is the event coordinator, so they would be either them or the actual promoter themselves, who probably maybe got a cut. I'm assuming the venue, the place it was held, might have got some of that.
That was $250,000.
So your venue was, with your venues, you got a set price and then a percentage of the take for the venue.
From what I understand, it was a flat $250,000. I was talking to people outside because my little booth was outside. Well, what little bit I did for a booth.
I've seen a lot of contracts that are a flat fee and then a percentage of the hall.
Well, they ended up getting to charge for the parking, which they made a pretty penny off of.
$10
$10 ground charge for parking. Yep, $10
What'd you say, Dom?
pop.
$10 a car.
Yep.
So yeah, we're looking at roughly $1 million. How much was paid out? I mean, there was $250,000 for the place.
How much did Michigan people themselves put into this? And I mean, okay, they received dabs and free things in some places, but out of Michigan, all the residents that went, they actually lost money when they could have put that money to something, I think, more valuable to the cause of cannabis.
Right. That's where I'm going with it.
I understand the event. This is the third year.
Take time out, have a little fun, I guess.
Right.
What, Dom?
I say take time out, have a little fun. I agree with that, but when you're at a cause right now where it's so vital for everybody to really focus on the actual thing that's going on here, I mean,
it's an interesting dichotomy. Yeah, I mean, we got 3 groups talking about legalization, 2 groups passing petitions, a couple groups or a person in a group talking about repeal or lawful on some level or form. All this going on. We got people being arrested every day, people going to jail every day. Arrests are up. I mean, yeah, I understand letting your hair down, but it seems kind of counterproductive in the end of the day. Especially considering the temperance of the state right now.
You know how I always call things shiny baubles. I know both of you have seen me. Oh, yes, chase that shiny bauble. Chase it. That's what I saw this weekend as. A bunch of people chasing shiny baubles. A bunch of people in the movement were backstabbing each other, and talking about each other and all the things that were going on, because I was seeing it behind the scenes. and all these things. We're chasing this shiny bauble to get our little name in a magazine, maybe.
Yeah.
And I go back to the founding of this country, because that's where I'm at, because it's not just about cannabis to me. It's about my private property.
Exactly.
It's about my privacy on my phone, because the NSAs listen and say hi. You know, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, and she's right.
You know, and so I'm fighting every battle.
The late 70s, people.
Right. So I'm fighting every battle. I saw this as a shiny bauble that was in the way, because I don't think we have time. We need to be crossing the river and fighting. We need to be doing these things instead of just, every one of these conferences I've ever been to has been about smoking the joint.
Right. Yeah.
You go into the little forums and it's the same regurgitated, recycled speakers every time that aren't getting anything done. And that's where I get pissed.
They're not talking about little Timmy with epilepsy or you know, anything that is involved with the use of cannabis besides smoking a joint.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, that's not what I want for Michigan. You know, I don't want Michigan to be rolled up 2.0. I'm not even looking for it to be the Michigan Medical Marijuana Forum 2.0 or 3.0, whatever version they're on now. You know, I'm looking for this to be an actual website. You know, I've been lacking. I got to put a lot of time in getting this stuff in there. But I mean, I want this website anybody in the state of Michigan can go to and source the actual documents, find the actual information. You know, people want to come in and talk about getting high and their favorite bongs. Go to Roll It Up. No offense, I love you, but we need to be serious. At least one goddamn place on the internet. And if you can't be serious on yours, you will be serious on mine. I sound like Dana.
Serious.
I'm with you on that, Dana. Cannabis is just a part of my daily life. It has been since I was 13. I had smoked before it, but it's been part of my daily life since I was 13, except for when it was gone and I couldn't find it. And then when those dry spells come on, after a week or two of hurting, I'd probably find a nice bottle to start hitting on and relaxing a little bit because I'd be pretty munched up. But as soon as I found some smoke, man, I throw that fucking bottle away. So, I mean, yeah, it's part of my daily life. I don't care if there's a Medical Marijuana Act. I didn't care before there was a Medical Marijuana Act. I don't care after. I respect it because I respect what it was tried to do. I respect the intent that we, the people, put into it and believed it would have, but that's where my respect for it ends. The state has shit all over it. Nobody has defended it, except we, the people, at the beginning. And then the fountainheads, we're working on it, we're making it better. And here we are 3 years later of them working on it, them making it better, and we got almost a 75% supermajority ready to write in anything they want. Why they passed the Medical and Provisioning Center bill, which Bill Schuette was right. It didn't stop them from being allowed on every street corner before he was elected. And he is also correct in the fact that it didn't authorize them after he was elected. But that's because, Bill, it stands moot. And when it stands moot, that means your hands are tied and you can't do a damn thing unless you make legislation change the law. Legislation don't have a 75% majority. So your opinion is moot, Mr. Schuette.
But his opinion is being used in court cases.
Exactly.
Doug Henry. His only crime was that him and his roommate, who was a paraplegic, who was suing his caregiver for screwing him, so he was helping him grow his cannabis. They both had cards. Doug Henry was also being paid by the state of Michigan to be a caregiver for his roommate, daily living things.
A regular
daily tasks.
caregiver.
So their only thing was he was either 2 plants over He was either a gentleman with 2 plants over on his grow, or he was commingling with someone. That's what they kept saying over and over and over. The only place that you can find the word commingling, well, there's 2 places, my bad, is the King-Kalanick case and Bill Schuete's opinion after that case.
Correct.
So nowhere in the law does it say anything about commingling. It says 12 plants in a closed and locked facility. It doesn't say they have to be separated.
Correct.
Nowhere.
Because in Kalanick case, they actually made that, not exactly opinion, I believe, but they made that quite clear that there's nothing in here that says they cannot be held together.
No, they said that they could not be held together. That's where the commingling came from.
Did they come out and say they could not be held together?
Yes. And that's where Schuete comes up with his commingling. But the cops and the judge and the prosecutor were using that word, even though it's not in the Medical Marijuana Act. So
okay,
that's where
right.
Schuete's
that's
opinions
right. I do
matter.
Now, because
Schuete's opinions are being used like crazy.
Well, yeah, and because I remember that now, because my issue when Kalanick came out, now that I'm refreshing my, the juices of the brain pulled that back up, was when Kalanick came out, I had a problem with the way they ruled with that because there's nothing in the Act that says it. What the Act says is only accessible by
patients
a caregiver or that caregiver's registered qualified patient. Now, because that caregiver's registered qualified patient can only have access to 12 plants total, that is how they are bringing that interpretation in. But the Act doesn't actually say they have to be in separate rooms.
Right. So within that case, when Doug Henry did finally get his chance to shine in court, he told them, because they would ask him what he needed to say every time, even though he had a public offender, and he would say certain things, and he kept saying this one over and over. Commingling is not in the law.
Correct.
That is only an opinion of an attorney general in a higher court. It is not part of the law. And he finally got dismissed because they didn't really know what to do. We played with them for a year. But that's what I'm saying. People think Schuete's opinion doesn't matter. Schuete's opinion matters big. Schuete got pig farmers to have to kill their pigs because of his opinions.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, that's where it's such a bigger thing to me. It's not just about cannabis. It's about everything.
Acres, green acres.
The Cannabis Act is our tax stamp act.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's got everything that the founders envisioned. It's got the new offices. It's got the unlawful searches and seizures. It's got everything they were fighting with that tax act. And yet we still think we need to play games.
No, you are absolutely correct. You know, I really believe, now, not that I believe the state would have implemented, but had the state actually implemented the Act as we passed it, as it's broadly and generally to be understood, we certainly would have had the best medical marijuana act in the country for at least a couple of years until somebody said, wow, that's pretty good, we can do better. Because that's what we did. Or that's what was done, and we agreed to it. However you want to say the act was bring up, it was written quite well in the literal sense of a people's initiative. But it's been the state's utter refusal to, acknowledge this one. Hell, we just passed the helmet law in 2012. Heard all sorts of, oh my God, people are going to be dying all over. It's going to cause head injuries going, blah, 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 blah. Cops ain't pulling guys over with no helmets because they ain't got no helmets on. I even understand there's a $100 fine written into it.
Yep, the cops have gone over it. No one I know that rides helmetless has the insurance. They don't pull them over.
I know
the cops are over it.
The cops don't pull them over that. They didn't like that. I mean, the cops spoke out against it. The insurance company spoke out against it. The Attorney General spoke out against it. The Michigan Department of Health spoke out against it. We still passed it. How come they're not fighting it? How come they're not fighting the 12 other or 11 other, people's initiatives that have passed?
Well, but the helmet law wasn't a people's initiative.
But I got to wear a seatbelt.
You what?
But I got to wear a seatbelt.
Right.
Right. Well,
I can wear a seatbelt when I drive, but I don't have to wear a helmet if I choose not to when I'm riding a more dangerous
I'm waiting
vehicle.
for the mandatory seatbelt on a motorcycle law to come through. Really, this is how insane these idiots are. I'm waiting for somebody to put, shouldn't you have a seatbelt on the motorcycle then?
They say you got to have a seatbelt on, and it's basically more for the kids, but where the hell are the seatbelts when they're driving in a bus going to school?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they tell us, right?
But that's a government school bus. The government doesn't have to follow the law.
Yeah, and also they're a state vehicle, number one, so they don't have to follow state laws. They just gotta be safety because they got the kids.
Same with the marijuana. You got to have 12. Why not 11? Why not 13? Why not 15?
Exactly.
I mean, what's 12?
It's like the magic number.
Where the heck did they come up with 12?
Yep.
It's a magical number.
Don't know. Oregon had 18.
But Dom,
other countries or other states only have 6.
There's some of us that have been fighting the seatbelt law our whole life. Just don't wear it. Just take it off. Let it pull you over.
Right.
Go for it.
Same with insurance. I mean, if I want insurance on my car, it should be my choice to have insurance.
And those laws all started as a choice. Insurance was a choice.
Yep.
Registration of your vehicle was a choice.
Yeah.
Driver's
Seatbelt
licenses were a choice. Seatbelts were a choice.
Because you wouldn't get a ticket, you'd just get a warning when the seatbelt law just came in. They won't take it.
It can never be a first enforcement. It can never be a reason to pull you over.
It'll never be a reason to pull you over. We'll never allow them to pull you over just because you don't have your seatbelt on.
That's right.
What are they doing today?
Putting up roadblocks.
Mm-hmm. Click it or ticket.
Yeah, that's right.
And you guys, and not you guys, these people that want to legalize recreational dope want to give them 10% more on top of the 6% they're already going to screw you out of. Because they've spent the last 6% so well over the last 50 years.
Haven't they made enough on people getting in trouble for marijuana in the first place?
Well, they're going to have to clean up that revenue they're losing.
Right.
And they're going to have to grow the government.
I think that's where the 10% comes in as an appeasement. Sin tax.
And they're going to need to grow a government, so we're going to need to pay more taxes on our property because, they got to have seed-to-sale tracking, and that's got to have monitoring of audio and video recorded by state. So, we got to have, that's not going to be covered, so we'll have to pay more taxes for that.
Well, then the taxes, they'll just end up going up more because most of the time when we pay something out for Michigan taxes, it doesn't even go for what we're paying it out to be. Or actually they end up using more than they're supposed to, or... I mean...
They have diverted the road fund tax. The road fund and the registrations and the driver's license, they have diverted that since 1996. They still have not rediverted it back where it goes, even after May 5th. It's still sitting there in the general fund, every bit of it, every time. They have funds full of money, and they have a $54 billion a year budget. $54 billion. Divide that by less than 10 million people. It's a large amount. Someone did the math for me one day. They don't need even the 6%. They need nothing more. People need to withhold that as well. Stop paying your taxes for a minute.
If people understood their money, by morning there would be revolution. That was Henry Ford around 1920-something. Maybe the 30s. Henry Ford Sr.
Like you said earlier when we were talking, most people, they go along with it because there's more consequences in the long run. And instead of fighting it, like, if something goes on in court, instead of fighting it, that's okay, we'll just plead guilty or whatever it is to the cause just so we're not getting in trouble for it any longer or prolonging the situation or spending time in jail because you believe something different, but you're going to say you did it when you never even did it. Or
the system has been designed and perverted that we are guilty before we're innocent. We have to prove our innocence, and not only do we have to prove it, we have to do it in their skewed system, by their policies. which isn't even constitutional to begin with.
Of course.
So, yeah, I mean, the system
well,
has
I'm looking
been
up a quote for you guys
to
right where
make
you are
it
on that
easier.
exactly right now.
Yeah, I mean, the system has been designed to make it easier to culp to being guilty of doing nothing than it is to stand up for your actual innocence.
Sure.
That's
it's something
by design.
like it's Ben Franklin, and it's something like a man will suffer incredible tyranny in the face of oppression, basically because it's too hard to change. I got to really look up the quote, but it's right on there. It was one of the founders.
Mm-hmm.
We're repeating history. People are afraid. It's too easy. Go with the status quo. Just get over it. Just pay it in. Just do it. How many times did my husband get told, just plead guilty. It'll just make it easier. Just do your time.
Exactly.
We didn't, and we won.
That's right.
But it says, it's the man will face incredible evils because evils are sufferable.
There you go.
And that is what it is. And it continues on to say about the changing. And that is what we're doing. People are like, oh, well, let's just do it. Let's just do it. And you bash them in the head with the truth. And they're just like, well, there's nothing we can do. We just got to chase our shiny baubles and pay our little taxes and help the government screw us.
Because the government is king.
Well,
but that's not what our Constitution
says. Lottery's a good thing. Lottery's supposed to pay for most of our schools, and most of the schools are getting closed down. I mean,
yeah, they're getting closed down, Dom. And did you know that money that they've been saving? Look up the trust funds and the lottos. It's in the back of the Constitution. Find it because you'll get amazed, and then look up the money. With the lottery money that was supposed to go to the school aid fund is sitting with $600 billion in it that they're not giving to any schools. That's all coming from the lottery. The land trust fund, where they get to sell all of our oil off and then buy up more crap, that's up to $600 billion. That's like a magic number in a lot of these. We have a wildlife preservation fund. We have a parks and recreation fund. All these funds are sitting there with huge buku amounts of money. Our state is broke. We cannot afford to fix the roads, but they're taking money out of one of those magical trust funds to build the Senate a new building so that they can look at the Capitol, how pretty it is.
Right.
And yet people are willing to pay 10%. And I heard a really good author. His name is Orrin Woodward. He's a newer author. He talks all about the Constitution and things. He writes about a frog in a pot of water. If you have a frog in a boiling pot of water and you slowly turn the water up, that frog will fall asleep and he will die. If you put that same frog in a pot of water that's already boiling, he will jump out and save his life.
Exactly.
If they slowly turn up the tyranny, we don't feel it, and everybody gets used to it, and they beg for more. I watch people.
Yep, that's
I watch
what it
people
is.
beg for more.
That's
beg
where
for
we're
more
at.
tyranny. You will lose your. Who was it? Patrick Henry. You will lose your liberties first, very slowly at first, and very quickly in the end. They had seen it over and over since 1014 A.D. The Anglo-Saxons have had to every couple of years kill off a king or put a sword to his throat or overthrow the government in some way since we chose to have a king. And we got to keep doing it. We've just been asleep this time. We let that boiling water just slowly come over us. But we need to be that frog. We need to jump out and we need to fight with our might, every bit of our might, and fight every day.
I totally agree with that.
You know, and that's where I'm at with it. You know, that's what I see this whole cannabis issue as. It's that one sword, that one piece of straw that's foreboding. And the reason it's foreboding is because it links everything else and exposes all the lies
that
are attached to it. And they are deep. Anybody who's looked into the cannabis issue knows those lies run deep. I know racism is touted as the reason cannabis is prohibited. Sorry, you're wrong.
It's paper, it's oil, it's medical.
Yep.
Exactly.
Racism is the media way it was sold to you. But
by Mr. Hearst with his magazines
said.
that he printed with his paper company that he needed to have, and he knew cannabis was in his way.
Yep.
Hearst.
Or the corticator that was invented that would have replaced 10 guys in the field and made the labor so cheap that it would have cut the cost by 75% of what it used to be to make hemp products, which is the biggest hurdle up till that time, why hemp wasn't as competitive as cotton, because it was labor-intensive. You needed 6 guys to do what 2 guys could do with cotton. So you needed more men, more labor to do the hemp than you did the cotton. With the corticator, it flipped the switch. You needed 1 guy to do what it took 10 guys to do in cotton.
Exactly.
That's why it's illegal. Cannabis indica and its medical abilities is why it's illegal. Cannabis sativa and its medical abilities is why it's illegal.
Yes, because it only took them 5 years to remove it from the pharmacopoeia.
From 1937 to 1942, against all recommendations from the head of the United States federal government's medical societies at the time. So the top people in the government medical said, no, you can't do this. This is bad. People will get sick. But it was the crazy marijuana, like I said. Yes, they sold it through racism. Hook, line, and sinker, and everybody bought it.
It will make a black man think he's a white man.
Yep.
That's right.
Because they didn't know what marijuana was. They all knew what cannabis and hemp was. Most of them had cannabis indica oil sitting in their medicine cabinets that their kids were taking from their coughs, or they were taking from their coughs, or whatever else.
Their clothes were made out of it.
They all knew at the time. So yeah, I mean, racism is why it was sold. It was how the vehicle that made us, the sheeple masses, go, oh, loco weed, which is a real plant. It's not cannabis. It's not marijuana. It's really called loco weed, and it really does make people go out and do stupid shit. But that was also, weaved into this idea that this is what marijuana is, and therefore marijuana is cannabis, so it must be cannabis is loco weed. I mean, hell, it's even been called cannabis. It's called loco weed, but it's not really loco weed. There is actually a botanical plant called loco weed from Mexico, and it makes people crazy. So yeah, I mean, it's all a bunch of twists and lies, and forgetting to read this part of the description of the definition of marijuana in the Public Health Code as it pertains to the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, as opposed to just reading the whole thing and giving it its broad intent. It's all about competition. That's why I've been calling these legalization options. If we want to call legalization what it truly is, call it the Elimination of Fair Competition in the Cannabis Movement Act, or the Cannabis Industry Act, because that's what legalization and recreational does. Eliminates competition from everybody but those with money who already have control of it. They just don't want you to have control of it.
That's right.
So yeah, that's where I'm at. That's why I wrote up a repeal bill. That's why I'll keep flapping my lips right up until I'm in the grave if it isn't repealed. And if we repeal it, like you said, Dana, I'm not a one-trick pony. I got other things. This is the one that bring me out of the closet. Because I always knew it was going to be the one that bring me out of the closet. Now that it's on like Donkey Kong. So we're down to the last minute. You guys got anything you want to close up with?
Well, I'll say right now, please, people, read, learn, live, learn it. Learn it. It's not hard. If you can sit down and read every article in the MMMR, if you can sit and read Hybrid Life and the Green Report, and you can do all of these things, read your Declaration of Independence. It's very small. Learn that we have the same grievances. Read the Federalist Papers. Learn the original intent and know that you have the natural right to ingest this every day. Learn it, please. I need you to, because I'm ready to storm, and I need people to storm with.
That's right. I totally agree with that.
Well, this is about it for the night. We'll pick this up tomorrow night. Thanks for calling in, you two. Appreciate having somebody to bounce words off. Gets lonely by myself, so we hope to see you guys tomorrow night. And I'm going to try to tweak this Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and maybe see if we can actually get this damn thing working properly here. But we'll see you tomorrow night if you guys can call back in.
Have a good night.
You guys have a good
And
one.
I'll talk to you in the morning, Dom.
All right. Don't forget that.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Night.
Yeah, bye-bye.
See you, Dana.